What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 47, brought to you by the Antisocial Network. Today, we got a pretty awesome guest. We were talking beforehand, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear her story. We got Demetria Goode. How you doing, Demetria?
I'm good. And yourself?
On this rainy day, I think I'm doing a little bit good.
And I'm glad you pronounced my name correctly.
It's important to pronounce people's names correctly.
Well, I'm always getting folks' names wrong, so.
Hey, you know what? I've had people call and they'd be like CN Young, and I'm like,
Sean.
how do you mess up Sean? How do you mess up Sean? Come on now. I've been called Shane. Like, come on. Do you even see an H? Come on.
The
All
A
right.
side.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a crazy time. Anyways, Dimitri, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Demetria Goode. I'm the founder of the Good Fight and also an extension Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. So we share actual life experiences of others to help others and to start the healing journey. So we would hope that the life experience would touch someone to connect to heal. Um, I am a survivor of domestic violence. So the platform of the Good Fight uh, started from me actually sharing my life experience of what I went through from my domestic violence situation with my ex husband. But it did something even deeper. It took me all the way back to my childhood and the issues that I was going through and facing from my childhood traumas affecting my adult decisions. So we'll get a little bit into that. I'm not going to give too much because if I do, I'm going to tell the whole story and it's not going to be fun.
Absolutely. And I think that what I've found, in not just my own recovery, but in recovery from other people, is that it takes a village for somebody to recover, and meaning a village, meaning everybody. That lived experience is most one of the more vital things in recovery.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So, anyways, Demetria, you're from Clinton, Maryland, just outside DC.
I'm actually from Falls Church, Virginia. I live in
Falls Church.
Clinton. Yeah, I'm from
Okay.
I'm a VA girl, so yes.
Oh, okay. How do you like Virginia?
I love Virginia. I was born and raised in Virginia. Um, Virginia taught me a lot, to be honest with you. My friends, all different nationalities. It's definitely, if you believe it or not, it was a cultural shock for me when I did move to Maryland originally and stayed during my teenage years because I learned a different background from being around all of me. I actually dealt with more racism, to be honest with you. So I love Virginia, just can't afford it. It's expensive, but
That is.
Maryland is my home too. So I love Maryland. I love my people too. So yeah.
Yeah, and I've only been to Virginia a few times. My mom lives down in Norfolk,
Okay.
and so been there, spent some time in Virginia Beach. Very beautiful place, but like you said, it's very expensive to live there.
Well, Northern Virginia is way more expensive than Virginia Beach. So
Yeah, wow, yeah. Also, because you're close to DC as well.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, I've often, when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and coming from a different perspective, when I was a kid, I didn't understand the concept of racism.
Hmm.
I didn't understand it. And when I moved up to northern Pennsylvania. You've seen racism in like spades, just outpouring of racism. It's crazy. And when I joined the army, it was, I went from seeing that lifestyle to seeing something where everybody was accepted and you are universally a
Hmm.
human being. And I was just like, this is how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah,
This is
and
how,
that's how it is in Virginia. I dealt with less racism um, in in VA.
Mm.
And so, yeah.
Sheesh, sheesh, yeah, and I think it's just terrible, when when any form of racism happens, whether it's you know, people of color or nationality, for because I lived in Alaska, I've seen a lot of it toward Alaskan natives,
Hmm.
and it upset me because some of my friends, like a lot of my friends are Alaska Native and in recovery, and so when I see that, it's very upsetting. And then even like seeing some of the things that happen on social media, it's just like this shit's uncalled for. It's
Hmm.
2023. Come on, let's
Hmm.
change the way we fucking act and think.
And that's why I've taught my kids, whoever you date, whoever you love is whoever you date and whoever you love. I went through the longest of just culturally dating outside my race too. I mean, we're going into another topic, but
Yeah,
because what I perceived from society, I actually was intimidated to date outside my race because of what others would think. But my family is a rainbow. My granddad is half black, half white. So um, and my grandmother's black, white, Indian. So it's after on my mother's side, after so many generations, there is no there are no blacks. It's Indian and white. On my dad's side, that's the slave side. So I get a mix of both. And I tell people look at me crazy. Yeah, I'm black, but I'm like I'm a mutt too. So because I'm
yeah,
mixed with everything, right? So.
yeah, yeah. My youngest brother is half black,
Mhm.
and I have a cousin who's black as well. She lives just outside DC. Do
Mhm.
you hear the dogs in the background?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Oh,
okay.
they'll be okay.
You can't shut them up. It's okay.
No. So the dog will sit at the window, look outside, see people, and just start losing his mind.
It's okay.
Whether he's up here or downstairs, I can't change it.
Yeah, it's okay. Mine.
All right, but anyways, let's get into it. What was the situation that led you to get into recovery or to start working on yourself?
Absolutely. So let's go to the trauma piece. What I didn't realize is now that I'm an advocate and I'm doing the work that I'm doing, I realized that I was in a narcissistic, gaslighting relationship. And for anyone that's going through that, it's important to recognize the signs because what we end up doing is, for me, I became confused with the whole relationship and some of the events that happen. And, when a person starts to lie on you and everyone around you starts to separate you from them, humiliate you, disrespect you, financial abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, you name it, I went through it. And I tell folks, I take accountability as well, right? Because I verbally abused, and my verbal abuse was more of a defense. I couldn't take it because I was the provider and because I felt disrespected. And I never, don't get it twisted, I never threw up that I was the provider. What I did was I supported because that was my husband, and that's what you do when you're in a relationship. You balance, you look out for each other. But when folks have mental issues going on, you can't change a person. So it's a lot of things that I learned from this situation personally, even about me. And I'll jump back. But there were a lot of episodes that, like, mentally, and I tell people, childhood traumas, adult traumas, domestic violence, they all fall into the mental health bucket because that is what happens. It mentally damages you because I was mentally damaged before the marriage, but I had a vulnerability of love. So that was my soothing point, is I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted. So I would settle for anything. And that's why I ended up in the relationships that I ended up in. But I would get angry after I allowed someone to prey on my love. That's where my anger would come out or my aggression would come out. But I have to take accountability for that as well because I allowed it. But when you want it so bad, you don't think about that piece of it. But I went through the cheating. He used to cheat with the neighbor across, one of the neighbor's nieces across the street. And I had a neighbor, and he would always tell me, "You need to leave him. He doesn't deserve you. I don't know why you stay. I wish you would just leave." And he kind of bullied my neighbor too, right? And I never understood, but I actually, God was giving me warning signs. And if you don't believe in God, I apologize. I do.
Okay.
No offense to anyone. And even before I got married, I had warning signs, but I ignored them because of my loyalty to the relationship. If I see someone going down, I don't want to leave them down. I want to be there to support them. And I think that was my problem, is I should have left before it even escalated to what it escalated to. But there are some things that I went through in there, like um, which he didn't, which he didn't tell people, and and a lot of it's going to come out because I'm starting my book. But I went through watching him abuse one of our animals. I went through him almost taking the life of two of my, I mean, one of my friends twice. And in the end of it, he brutally beat and stabbed me 6 times from me standing up to him, confronting him, and telling him how I feel. And this is the emotional, mental piece of it, because I couldn't take it no more. I blacked out. I said things, the truthful, but it was how I said it. And I know that I humiliated him and embarrassed him because it was someone on the other end of the phone. And they probably were like, "You didn't tell me that." But because there was a lot of things done, of course, he's not going to tell, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, after I humiliated him, and once I said, "It's over, I'm done with you, there is no marriage anymore," and I came back and kind of started ramping, I didn't even know he had a steak knife in his hand. And he was 6 foot, 275 pounds. And as you see me, I'm 5'4". I'm pretty short. And he just stood up and he started hitting me and beating me. And he was stabbing me at the same time he was hitting me. I didn't know he was stabbing me until I eventually got outside after minutes and minutes of the brutal beating from the hallway into a back room. And he stabbed me 6 times, one over my heart, one here, two on my shoulder blades, two in the hand. I had to have a major surgery on my hand. It
Mm.
damaged my tendons and nerves. I had 15 stitches up my chin to lip. That's where my lip is shifted. I had 3 staples in my head. Gobs of my hair was pulled out. I had bruises on my face. And I'm sorry, my phone's
It's
ringing.
all right. It happens.
What
It's all
happened while I'm on the phone? And it's nothing. I don't even answer the phone. So,
right.
but I had bruises all over my face. And my dad was actually downstairs in the room, and I was banging on the floor. But my dad came up in the end of it, and my dad he was shot. Someone tried to rob him, but my dad had energy. He was like pushing him, and I was able to slide under my dad's legs and get outside. And when I got outside and I did this, I realized blood was running down my arms. And I had this Nora face. That's why I tell some people it's good to be cheap sometimes and not good to pay too, because I had a windshield ski Nora face, and it was actually thin, but it was warm and it had that thick material. I think that coat actually saved my life, to be honest with you. And I never zipping this coat up. And that day I zipping it up from top to bottom. I
Mm.
think God was shielding me, like protecting me. And you could see the stab marks through the coat. So they actually had to cut everything off of me. And that's when I realized I was stabbed 6 times.
Wow. Damn. That's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot to unpack. Wow. First off, I want to say I'm sorry you went through that.
Don't be sorry.
No, no, I'm gonna say I'm sorry
Sorry.
because no human being deserves to be treated that way
Yeah. And he tried to
whatsoever.
justify it too. That's the sad part. The sad
Yeah.
part is he tried to justify it. And even going through the courts, um, he tried to tell people that I stabbed him. He had a, I stabbed him on his hand, but as you know, forensics showed that it
Yeah.
was a self inflicted wound that he stabbed himself from stabbing me. But
Yeah.
that's the hardest part. Is like, you've done all the damage to me. Why can't you even take accountability for stabbing me instead of lying?
Yeah, that accountability portion is huge, right? I
Hold on, keep
it's
talking.
all right. It's all right. So yeah, I kind of been through a similar situation, not with the not with the violence, but
Hmm.
with the lying and stuff like that. And I actually just got out of a marriage in December, and my biggest thing was, why can't you own up to everything that I'm seeing? Literally, I'm looking and I can see these things on social media. Why are you not owning up to it? Why can't you just be honest?
They don't. They don't. They
No,
don't.
can't. They can't. So, okay, so you get stabbed and you're outside. What ends up happening after?
We call the ambulance. So the ambulance was literally like 2 minutes down the road. At that, it took them over 10 minutes to get to me. I actually could have sued them, but I'm gonna tell you why I didn't. But I actually started walking down the road towards the stop sign. That's how long they were taking. And I was getting weak. I was like losing energy. And they finally got to me. And it actually was 5 ambulance calls. 5. And one was my son, one was a neighbor, and two were bystanders just riding down the street that seen me, that seen
Mhm.
my face, because my chin was split open like that. Like my face was split open.
Mhm.
And so um once they got me, they took me to, it's, they know I have a PG County Trauma Center. That was one of the largest trauma centers in the area. And my best friends and them actually met me there, and they were just like in disbelief. Like they couldn't even believe what had just happened. But um, I still can't think of like being stabbed, or why you would go to that measure to stab me. But now that I'm able to process and think of everything, I actually just had my 10-year anniversary. March 17th was my 10-year anniversary, 2013.
Mhm.
Now that I process everything, when people have mental traumas and they have issues that they went through in their childhood that affects them, because you got to remember, he didn't have a relationship with his mom and dad until he got older. And after he had a relationship with them, one passed away and the other passed away. And I had a very challenging relationship with his mother, um, whom he picked up some of the habits from as well. But may she rest in peace. I'm not going to talk about, we definitely had our differences. And I even remember trying to mend the relationship with her, being the better person. And um, I could hear her talking trash about me,
Mhm.
as I tried to enter the building to apologize, just to try to come to sense, even for our child that we have. And it was awful. And even when I called him, it was like, hey, I don't know why your mother's acting like this. Like, I'm trying to mend. And he laughed. Like, he didn't even take it seriously. So you realize then now that a lot of the hype that he started to make people hate me. I actually had a friend, and she used to hang with him, actually. So
Mhm.
she actually knew a lot more than people. And she's actually a witness, but it separated our friendship too as well. Because if you're my friend, I don't care what we go through, you should be warning me, right?
Yeah.
And she looked at me one day a couple years ago, and she was like, flat out, that man made his mother hate you. And she said, I didn't understand why he was talking to you about that or saying the things that he said, and I couldn't believe he was lying on you like that. So that becomes a part of the narcissistic behavior and the difficulties. Because at one point, the same man told me that he wished he had a mother like me. the way that I treated my kids. So, when you take sense of it and you think about it, it's all the things that a person misses in the absence as a child, the things
Hmm.
that they watch. Because some of the things that he vented to me about his parents is heart dropping. So, I've been through my challenges through my childhood, but I don't deny them. I acknowledge them.
Yeah.
But it's different when people don't get help from it and they're still dealing with those traumas
Yeah.
as they get older. So,
Yeah, definitely. Childhood trauma comes to play in full effect, later on in life. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of what they deal with now in their adult life is rooted back to when they were a child, and how they were treated, or the lack of love or lack of care or any of that roots all the way back to when they were a child. So I'm glad that you were able to recognize that. Uh, one
no,
question I one question I have, and this is something I've struggled with, is when you saw the red flags and you saw all the bad things that were happening prior to this event. What made you stop and say and ignore them?
um, because he went through a stage in his life where he got hit by the feds.
Mm,
And so it altered and shifted his life. And it took away anything and everything a lot away from him. So now he becomes dependent, right? And I stuck beside him through those challenges. And what baffles me is um, a lot of his family wasn't even there, and he talked about a lot of his family, but he talked about me to his family. I just going through what he went. I just didn't want to leave him in that position just to walk away from him. So my loyalty overpowered the red flags. As is it right to leave someone that's going through a difficult and challenging time, or do you be there for that person?
yeah,
I chose to be there for him. But I think when that happened, I think God was saying you need to leave him.
yeah.
Um, so
But it's really a catch 22 in that situation, right? So
mhm,
like either you stay with him and you neglect yourself and that stuff, or you leave with the potential of what could have happened.
mhm, yeah,
I've been through that. I was in that, most recently. I sat there for a while and I said, I need to leave, I need to leave, I need to leave, and I didn't, because I couldn't think of leaving her in the situation that she was in because of the kids. And then I started really sitting down and being like, okay, I do want to leave. And then she left.
mhm,
Like somebody, God, higher power, whatever, whoever you choose to believe in, he closed that door for me. And
mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And you have to be thankful for that, because for me, I prayed. I was like, Lord, please get me out of this situation. Please. I prayed for months, like over 6 months.
yeah,
Like when I was pregnant, a lot of folks don't know I had my daughter a month early and I had to have an emergency C-section. But I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to my friends because when I was in my marriage, I kept folks out of my marriage. There was a no trespassing. But for
mm,
him, he had everyone in our marriage, everyone disrespecting our marriage. So it was a lot of things. And that's what I tell folks. When you're in a relationship, there's a no trespassing. And if you allow to be people, if people start trespassing and the person that you're dealing with allows that, leave them. I mean, put yourself first. Stop putting other people first. So it's a lot of lessons that I learned from this entire situation. Like now that I'm able to soak things in and to absorb things, then I wasn't able to, because at the end of the day, it's like, how do you bring a person around and everyone loves that person, but then everyone dislikes that person? How does that work? But then for family and friends, right? You know that this person has issues, but then you protect them, you lie for them, you cover for them, you defend them. It's like, what about the victim?
yeah,
Because even for him, what people don't realize is when he got locked up, because he did do 7 years, because I was so mentally unstable, and people continue to ask me, why didn't you take the trial? Why didn't you take the stand? Why didn't you testify? Well, first of all, I was mentally unstable. I was confused. I couldn't think. So there are a lot of factors to this, because the prosecutors were actually upset at me because they wanted to give him life, right?
Yeah.
And even when I had this connection with him a few months ago, I told him, I was like, you should be thanking me. Like, we got into a heated conversation on social media, and every time I blocked him, I don't talk to him. And it was strictly reaching out to him, just saying, please allow our child to be, like, she doesn't want to see you. And the thing is, I've asked our child over and over again. What people may think I'm crazy is, if you want to see your dad, I will make provisions for you to see your dad. I never talk bad about him. I've never said anything bad. And actually, the hearsay that my daughter heard about her dad actually came from other people. It didn't come from me. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that's still her dad. We had
Yeah.
our differences, right?
Yeah.
So we got into this heated conversation. I told him, I was like, um, because of me, you're out. You a lie. I ran the transcript. Do you think the transcript would tell you that I asked for a plea bargain? It wouldn't, because your lawyer was happy because your lawyer knew you were going to get life, right? So even just still stealing the my credibility, and what killed me was even even while he's locked up, I've gotten my life together, and we'll get into that. Bought a house fairly well for myself, just doing things, just I was blessed. The
Mhm.
only thing that he could say to me was, somebody got locked up and told me that you were selling your body to pay your bills. I was like, holy shit. Like, really now? Like, kiss, like, really?
Yes.
I'm like, I have a good job that pays good money and ain't no paying no bills over here. But just the I was like, he hasn't changed. He
Yeah.
hasn't changed. You haven't changed, because you're still being a narcissist. Those are narcissistic gaslighting traits, and you still have them. And so while he was locked up, this is what people don't realize. He had an ex girlfriend, and he married her while he was in jail. Yeah, so if you're watching this, you're about to hear it, and this is the first time I've mentioned this. So you're actually getting a handful from me.
I'm here for it.
Um, he actually knocked her front teeth out, and a lot of people may not know this. And my question to her would be, why would you marry a man that knocked your teeth out? The same man that you said was jealous of your child, of his child, the same child that caused issues in our marriage. So you have to start looking at pieces, right? And that's why I tell people need to check their children, because a lot of times their kids are wrong, and they start a lot of confusion in relationships and marriages and friendships. It is a uncontrollable child, right? But this same female was jealous of his child, and he knocked this lady's teeth out, but she marries him while he's locked up. Well, what I realized was, I think that was a tactic from him, from when he was going through his stuff with the feds with us, because I married him, because I helped him get a job, because he was changing his life. The judge gave him another chance. So for me, I sat down, and I was like, I think he used probably the same tactic that he used when we got married, because the judge had a sensitivity for that. But I wouldn't even question what he did to me, because he knocked your teeth out, but you're going to marry him. So it's like, at what point do the people around him make him accountable for his actions? His actions will never change if there's no accountability, and folks continue to condone to what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, it sounds just like that, that there's zero accountability from anybody around him. Everybody is allowing him to act that way, or has allowed him to act that way. And so therefore he justifies it and thinks it's right.
Yeah, because I go back, not my traumas, even coming from this situation, sorry, even from his situation, what it did was it made me dig deeper into my childhood. And you're
Mhm.
getting a lot more on your podcast because I haven't even shared this on mine. So,
Hey, I'm here for it. Let's do it.
um, I was molested at 8. I was raped at 12 by someone not related to family. And what I realized was a lot of things that I did as a child. So from 12 to 16, I was in and out of the system. But now that I'm older, I can sit down and think about everything that I went through that transpired in my life, right?
Yeah.
I was looking for attention. I thought the system showed me more attention than at home
Yeah.
because I did. I had an aunt that bullied me. I mean, bullied me bad when I was younger. So I bullied others when I was younger, but I felt bad when I did it. That's why I didn't bully. Like I did it maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's why I'm against bullying because I do know a lot of bullying comes from a child being bullied at home because I've been through it.
Yeah.
But I would feel bad. I would go home and I wasn't connected with my feelings and emotions either. I'm not connected till I got older, right? I knew what I was doing was wrong. I felt some kind of way about it, but I didn't understand. But I did. I had a short span of bullying, and I've went on social media live. I've apologized to anyone that I've caused hurt and pain to. But other than that, I was one of the most lovable kids that you would want to meet. Like, but I had my indifferences because I was struggling. And what I realized, even with my mother, is that I can't blame her for a lot of things because of the traumas that she went through. She won't talk about them, but I know there is something there, right? Because she couldn't be the best mother that she could be because something was affecting her, right?
Yeah.
But I do know, and I can tell people is make sure you um, know the situation of where your child is and what what could potentially happen to them. And if there is a pattern in the family and you know about it, don't bring your kids around those folks
No.
because molestation is real. I'm a product of molestation, and so I had to accept those things because I had blackout trauma, and my ex-husband actually tried to use that against me and to lie on one of my kids. So it's important to bring awareness to those situations, right?
Mhm.
But I started to face my whole entire life from childhood to adulthood to now, right? So
Mhm.
I still have my flaws, but I am going through a healing process to be a better person,
Yeah.
right? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. How hard was that to look at yourself, and look at your life and say, okay, something's got to change? How hard was that for you?
well, when you get to a place, I was a person that was against suicide. So I was put in a position, and I think God put me in that position to make me feel what others went through. And when you get to the point of suicide, so after I got stabbed, I was confused. Mentally, I didn't know what to do from left to right. People that are you were there for them. You're going to see who's really there for you when you go through a serious trauma. Um, and I just struggled, and I felt that because I was de- dependent on me, I wasn't dependent on anyone else. I had to become dependent, and becoming dependent on others when you're there for everyone, and then only a fraction of those folks are there for you, right? So I felt empty. I felt like I was a burden. I felt lonely. I was at the worst depression that I had ever been in my life. And I had been depressed for years, especially going through my marriage. So I was in a very bad depressive state. and being stabbed and brutally beaten 6 times, and you can't understand why, and you've allowed someone before you got stabbed to dig you in a hole so deep that you don't even know how to get out the hole, and it's other people's issues that you're dealing with. That's why you're in the hole. And he damaged me even worse than I had ever been damaged in my life, even past childhood. He damaged me. I couldn't even look at a man up until last year. I couldn't look a man in his face. That's how bad it was. And I sat on the floor and I put 30 Percocets up to my mouth. And as I sat there, I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. And my 2-year-old, she was 2 at the time, she ran in the room and she was like, "Hey, mommy, I love you," and kissed me on my forehead and ran out the room. And of course, she doesn't know what's going on. And I dropped the pills and I broke down, cried for probably hours. But I realized my kids was my purpose in life and to start that healing journey. But it took me up until about 2 years ago to really be like, you know what? Take your pain and your traumas and help others. So that's when I started sharing my life experience. And it actually was a healing piece, and it actually helped me because I've seen so many folks going through so many traumas of their life, even down to childhood, and to get the statistics, not from the internet, but me actually dealing with people that went through abuse as a child, neglect as a child, molestation as a child. I mean, just I can go on and on and on. And I will look at these folks, and some days it will be everyone that I talk to went through a childhood issue, and molestation was the biggest piece of it. So that's what started to take me out of the blackout trauma that I was having as a child, because I'm like, you are hiding this piece of your life, right? And you won't talk about. I didn't talk about it because others talked about it and nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
So if you have people that are repeatedly being molested, why are you going to talk if nothing is being done to the
Yeah.
other person that is affected and they're going through their traumas of molestation, right?
Mhm.
So I think that was a big burden on me that I closed out. But now I acknowledge it and I accept it, and you're actually getting it first on your podcast. Um, so, but that is the biggest piece to healing, to your mental traumas, because a lot of people that go through mental traumas are in denial, or they're stuck in the place of the abuse or what happened to them. And that's why I tell people, don't judge the prostitute because you don't know what happened to the prostitute as a child. Don't judge the addict. I mean, you keep the addict away from you because you don't want them stealing from you, or whatever they do, right? But don't judge the addict because you don't know what the addict went through.
Yeah.
Don't judge the person that has a sexual addiction. You don't know why they have that sexual addiction, but a lot of it comes streams from childhood. So there are so many addictions and habits that people have, but if you ever sit down and talk to majority of them, it's because of what they went through their childhood. And then
Mhm.
if you talk to the ones that now that have addictions, a lot of folks have introduced them to the addiction. But being introduced to the addiction, they were at their lowest point. If I'm going through something and I'm going through a trauma, even as an adult through domestic violence, and I'm continue to be somebody beating me up, and this is for men and women because men are abused a lot, but they just don't talk about it. And I'm an advocate for men, women, and youth. But if you talk to a lot of people introduced to the habits, they're at their lowest. And someone introduced them as an adult, right? And it's
Mhm.
at the vulnerability piece of it, right?
Mhm.
My lowest, and you introduce a drug to me, guess what? 9 times out of 10, for a life stage comes from. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about the good fight.
oh, absolutely. So the Good Fight was started from me sharing my life experience. And folks start reaching out to me, was like, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing. I went through this, I went through that. So me sharing my life experience actually created the platform of the Good Fight. So I start sharing life experiences to help others going through similar situations so that potentially they could face, if they're going through a trauma, they could say, you know what, I'm in that, or I've been through that. So we share life experiences in hopes that it will help folks to start the journey of healing.
That's very beautiful.
Thank you. And we are a nonprofit, 501(c)(3). So definitely, if folks, if you want to support, please come support us. We're doing some wonderful things too. We're ready to gear up on a youth program because there's a lot of domestic violence in the youth. So we want to bring awareness to that and gun violence. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree that the youth need to be helped out. Because nobody was there for us when we were younger.
mhm.
Absolutely. And tell us about the unspoken podcast.
Absolutely. So, Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast is an extension of the Good Fight to get a broader message out. We share actual interviews of humans sharing their experiences, so you get it head on. We're unfiltered and unspoken because we allow you to say how you feel, because no one has been through your trauma. So if it emotionally affects you, then it's good for the audience to see how it emotionally affected you. But the piece that we love about it is we start from the trauma piece into the healing piece of it, and everyone hasn't healed, so you get to see that piece of it. They're struggling to go through the healing process, but you get to see how people's emotions, reactions, how they share what they have been through. So we have men and women, all different nationalities. We've hit UK, we've hit India, we've probably hit over 30 states now. So we're counting, and we're booked out to October. So folks are really stepping up to help others to share their traumas. So if you have been through a trauma, please, we're on YouTube. Definitely come check us out. Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. It's a green U. So, and Sean's coming on too, so you'll get to see him.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Mhm.
That's what I love about podcasting
Mhm.
is you see people at different perspectives and different points in their life,
Yep.
right? And not everybody is at the same spot.
Yep.
I've interviewed people that have been sober for 20 years
Mhm.
and they have a ton of experience and you get to see like what they've learned.
Yep.
And then you interview the person that's currently still in the fight and they're trying to get help or take care of themselves, and you get to look at that person and say, I remember what it was like.
Mhm.
And so that's what I love about podcasting. That's why I do this, and I'm pretty sure that's why you do it too.
Mhm. Yeah, so we can help other people. It's not just about us, but I think the connection and the community of it, that we help and uplift each other. And you know, thank you for getting my message out. I can't wait to get your message out, and that we continue to support each other and empower each other. I mean, and then just not in the podcast world, but in the community as a whole. That we're supporting and we're protecting each other, and not just protecting us, but I'm big on this: protect our kids, protect our youth as well. So it takes a village, and if we can scramble, believe me, it's more evil than good. Trust me, and that's the God's honest truth. There's more harm, Sean, and I like your platform because you can be raw, but the community is the church. And excuse what I'm about to say. The community is the church, but unfortunately, a lot of the sins and the hurt and the abuse, the molestation, it comes from the church, which is the community. So we are heavy also on bringing awareness in that platform as well. How do we protect the community and how do we make folks accountable, especially coming from the source of the community? Because if a pastor hurts you, he needs to be accountable. If the deacon hurts you, he needs to be accountable. If the sister hurts you, she needs to be accountable. If the brother of the pastor hurts you, he needs to be accountable. And I think a lot of that's pushed under the rug because of the position. So I heavily talk about how people hide behind the church and God. So, yeah. Your phone's muted.
Oh goodness, my microphone. Jeez. Anyway, what I was gonna say was, I think when the waters of the community are tainted, then the people become sick,
Amen.
and it starts somewhere,
Hmm.
and it continues for generations, and that's a generational trauma.
Yeah. And that's why we're here to stop the generational traumas, the generational curses, is to stand up and be advocates and voices of folks that don't have a voice. So we are giving outlets for folks to have a voice that may have never been heard, but we are it's a blessing that we are able to share those voices and to help folks through the mental traumas, because a lot of folks don't think that they have mental issues. But if someone abuses you and you continue to abuse, guess what ends up happening? The victim ends up becoming can potentially be end up becoming the abuser, and they don't even realize it, right? So if I'm abused and I'm in a relationship because of what was done to me, I can potentially, and it's a high risk of me becoming the abuser, right? And then the cycle just continues to go on. So, bringing awareness to the damage that we're done, because a lot of us are damaged. It's more people damaged than people that aren't damaged. So a lot of us are damaged, and that is a mental health issue because you're taking your damage out on other people, right? So we have to bring awareness to that. How do we fix mental health issues? And a lot of it is just acknowledging and coping with the traumas that you have been through, saying, you know what, this happened to me. I went through this. What do I do next to make myself a better person? What do I do next to not hurt someone? And if you are an abuser, typically someone abused you. So it's how do you look at the abuser? What measures do you go? It's digging, like he molested them, so let me dig deep. If you go talk, then the abuser typically was a molested, so they think it's acceptable, but it's getting them to realize it's not acceptable, and they take accountability of that piece. Once you take accountability of your life, of the things that happen to you, it changes a lot of the mental state of you. I mean, we're heavy on medicine. If you need to see a therapist or a psychologist, I highly recommend that you seek any professional help that is needed. But if you start investing in yourself and fixing yourself and loving yourself, that is the journey to healing. And what I've learned through all this is the first time I have loved myself. This is the first time that I am at peace. But all of that came from identifying my traumas and loving myself. Now I know what love is. A lot of us, we can't properly love because we don't love ourselves and we're always putting people before us. And I tell folks, if you're in a relationship and the significant other is allowing you to invest in them more than you invest in yourself, you need to think about the situation that you're in, because no one should be allowing you to love them more than them. Y'all should be an equal yoke loving each other, but the person that you're with should make sure that you're investing in loving yourself. And you should make sure that you're investing in loving yourself. Because the moment you start loving someone else more than you love you, you don't love yourself. And I think that's where people get the mix up at, right? So,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Uh, Demetria, where can we find you at?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, we have a website, The Good Fight. So it's www.thegoode fight.com. You can come check out some of the wonderful things that we're doing. If you would like to make a donation to the nonprofit, you can do so on the donate page. We have some of our podcasts listed there. TikTok, IG, and LinkedIn is The Good Fight altogether. TheGoode. And then on YouTube, Unfiltered, Unspoken Podcast. And on Facebook, you can search The Good Fight. We do have a platform group there. And then also, if you just want to come look at me, be funny and raw and be a glamour girl sometimes, you can Demetria Goode, Demetria, and my last name is Goode, Goode.
Sweet, sweet. Thank you. And before we go, we do you have any advice or suggestion for somebody that's currently struggling or is looking to get some help?
Yes, absolutely. One of the techniques that I use going through my healing process is I put stickies on my bathroom mirror. Whatever is going to inspire you to love you. You're beautiful. I love you. You mean something. You are something. You're gorgeous. You can do it. I mean, whatever is going to motivate you, I would put those stickies on your mirror. And every time you walk in there, repeat it to you because you're talking to yourself. You're a reflection of yourself. And that helped me heal. And also to invest in yourself, to put yourself first, invest in self care. If it's a walk in the park, going to see planes, sitting by the water, invest in your mental space. Make sure that you are accommodating your mental space. And I'll throw one more. Think for yourself. Don't allow others to tell you how to think or to move. Go with your heart. Whatever you feel. If you feel as though it's not right and you're getting butterflies, don't do it. Go with your heart. That is a first impression. And I think a lot of the situations that I was in, I always got a bubble or funny feeling, and it always felt like I had a second choice. And if you're always presented with a second choice, go with the one that's going to exit.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Dimitri, I want to thank you for hanging out with me for this hour. It's been awesome. I've enjoyed hearing your story and your resilience and what you're doing now. You're an amazing human being. I hope you know that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're out here. We're going to keep motivating because I'm a speaker as well. And we're going to keep doing good things. So check our website out for more stuff to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everybody, I want to say thank you for hanging out with us for this hour. It's been awesome. It's been a pleasure to have Demetria as a guest, and go check her stuff out. She's doing good work. All
Thank you.
right. So, till next time,
So
much love, y'all.